Hey NAI football fans, Cory Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIFBALL podcast powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, this is Cory Thorpe back again with another edition of the NAIF Ball podcast brought to you by AdCraft Custom Apparel and Merch, your custom uniform, merch, and apparel experts. Again, you hear me say it all the time. They're the best in the business. Y'all should definitely check them out. AdCraft Sports and Temple's Sporting Goods. Tonight we have Coach Pete Stanton from Dickinson State. Coach, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely,
Appreciate it.
absolutely. It's almost no, it really is a yearly tradition at this point where we know that Dickinson State's always going to be so good coming out of the North Star there, and this year was no different. One thing we've been talking about with several coaches so far this offseason has been what should we do as the NAI? What do we need to do about these NCAA games? Because we see Kaiser, um, just getting their going hat in hand here with three really tough teams and still making a deep run as national runners up this year. Y'all played a tough game, played Black Hill State really well. I was watching that, keeping tabs on that game from Valdosta as I was watching, actually Kaiser for that matter, and saw that y'all kept it close there. But what do you think about not counting those NCAA games?
Yeah, and that's a tough one, and that's probably out of my control on that. And what we want to do as a program is we just want to play good football teams. And Black Hills State is a team that's been in our region. They're a former conference opponent when we had the DAC 10, and they were an NAI school here a few years ago. And it's a great one for our fans. We had a huge crowd, and when we went down there as well, and they're a good football team, and we were a 0-0 game with them at halftime, and had missed a field goal, and we're down on the 6-inch the 6 line for a couple plays and didn't get it in, and they end up winning the game 17-2, and then they end up, I believe, finishing third in the or fourth in the RMAC Conference, Division II conference. Like a 7-4 type of season. They'd had one of their better seasons that they've had in many years. So that was the goal. Is where we're at regionally, Black Hills is close, and we want to be able to play good teams. And so, I mean, that one's tough. And then, we also lost to Western Montana, who's a very good team in the Frontier Conference. They were in the national playoffs last year. And so, those two losses set us back, but they also, made us better by playing good competition and regional competition. And so that was the goal, is just to, by doing that, get our team better.
Yeah, and obviously at 0-2, it's very hard to get ranked. You fall out of the rankings there, and you claw your way back after 8 consecutive wins. Was there a little bit of nerves there as you're coming into November? Or are you going to make it back up into the top 20 in time to get into the playoffs?
Well, we just try to do what we could do our part, play our schedule, and control what we can control. And we talked to our players about that. We didn't talk about what you have to do. We just talked about what we have to do each week and go try to win a football game. And that starts with the first week. We didn't do it against Black Hills and Western. We did it the rest of the way, and that's then control what we can control. And fortunately, we were able to get back in and get back in the national playoffs again. And our guys deserve that, and just played a good schedule and did a good job of just finishing that out.
One thing that we noted about the North Star, that was a little bit odd, but a little out of the ordinary this year, was the fact that Mayville State and Presentation were really giving folks a little bit more trouble than they usually do. Talk about the development of those couple of squads and what it means to the overall North Star.
Yeah, they're doing a good job. Rocky and Steve with those two programs are getting you guys, they're getting better. They're getting guys in, and I think the big thing with both of them are doing too is they're both really good human beings, and they're bringing in guys they're good character guys and playing hard and all that, and that's just good for all of us. And then Waldorf has very good athletes in their program, and they've been able to step up in their non-conference schedule and play good teams and do a good job. And Valley City is always a very formidable opponent. They do very well, and Coach McCullough, what he does there, and Dakota State as well. I know Dakota State won a couple games outside of the conference as well, and then I'd point out too that Iowa Wesleyan was improved this year as well. They had some transfer guys that were particularly on defense that were really good players, and so they were improved team as well.
That was another one I was going to mention was Iowa Wesleyan. Really, and I say this so often. You lose big, you lose small, you win big, and it seems like those couple of teams have especially against each other, maybe taking the jump from lose big to lose small, and in some cases are starting to win small, and that sort of parity is good for football no matter where you are.
Yeah, no question. And like I said, I think the effort was good, and the stability of those programs and the improvement it's good for football everywhere. And those coaches have done a good job, with all of that, and that's what we all want.
And kind of the landscape in y'all's neck of the woods is changing a little bit. Maybe not in the North Star so much as the Frontier with those folks over there adding Arizona Christian. It doesn't help the travel bit, does it? But just having a little bit more over there maybe gives the northwestern side of the country a little bit more clout up there when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, they'll have, the Frontier will be added, like you said, with another team, another very good team as well. And, and it's tough. And you just, even like where we're at geographically, we're a little bit out in the island because we're on the far, the far west side of our conference. But yet we're still, other than Rocky Mountain, in Billings, which is, 4.5 hours away, we're still quite a ways away from there too. So you start looking about non-conference things and matchups and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that definitely helps, that their conference to do that, and that's a good move on their part.
On the field, you've got y'all cleaned up in terms of the All North Star this year with 9 players returning to my count and another 9 that you've got leaving. So pretty even split here, but you do lose a couple of great skill pieces between Riley Linder, Isaiah Clute, Connor McCarville, and your quarterback, Aaron White. Talk to me about continuing to have next man up on offense, turning over that offense to the next set of guys.
Yeah, that's what it's always the key that way. I think when you do good things as a program, it's always going to be hard to see some of those players go. And one of the things that, we've tried to, since the COVID year, we've tried to stay pretty true with what we're doing with our guys too. We, if you look at our roster, I think it was all but about 4 guys actually could come back and play this year, but we want to keep those guys in line for graduation and do all that, and plus we got to play a full schedule that COVID year. But anyway, these guys, the guys you mentioned, we lost some really good players, steady players, so guys that were in our program a long time. But we also feel, like at running back, we had 2 other guys, and Braden Zeruff and Darian Brown, that took a lot of carries for us there and played a lot for us. And we have 2 of our 3 leading receivers back, with Caden Kuntz and Noah Sickler, guys. Our starting tight end, Galen Brantley, is back, and a couple of the tight ends, and most of our offensive line, will be back as well. So we, feel those guys, have worked their way up. We played several freshmen on offense this year too. So I think, those guys will be, like you said, next man up. And I think a lot of those guys are going to be ready to go.
Defensively, it just, you kind of depend on where you are, what you've got coming back. You've got a couple of all-conference defensive linemen coming back, and Jaquan Booth and Matt Anderson. But you do lose a couple in Crew Mathern and Tristan Peterson there, as well as a couple of nice pieces at defensive back in Dawson McLaughlin and Javante Oliphant. Talk to me about just continuing to get better on defense.
Yeah, we had a good year defensively. I think we led the nation in takeaways this year and did a good job. Obviously, we ran into a great team in Northwestern at the end of the year, and they were a very balanced, great team, and they did that to a lot of teams. But I think defensively, we had a good year that way. I think our front started with our front with Crew Mattern, who was our conference player of the year and was a first team All American. He ended up setting a couple school records for us, and obviously he's a tough one to lose. But as you mentioned, some of those guys that you mentioned up on the front or back, they were all conference guys, and we returned one of our top players in the conference on defense. So I'll keep Mishke at linebacker, who returned for his junior year, and he was an all-conference player for us and a very good player. It's the question for us is going to be the secondary going forward. As you mentioned, we had three starters that were all conference and we're seniors, but we do have a couple of guys there. Jaden Hartwell was the leading vote getter in the conference as a defensive back. We actually shifted him from corner to safety this year because Tell Lundy, who was our starter the year before, did not play at all this year. He came off a broken leg the year before in the Waldorf game and didn't play in our playoff game the year before down at Grandview, and so he will return, and so we'll get him back, and we will have a couple of guys back in the secondary that we didn't have this last year. So we're hoping that depth will help us out in a year.
To make the point, the most points scored by any team this season on you was 17 points that Black Hills State scored. Second most, oddly enough, is going to be your win against Presentation, where you won 73-16. So definitely a good defensive performance from your guys all season long there. Now, Coach, I'm gonna give you a magic wand here, and with this magic wand, I'm gonna let you do any changes that your heart desires on how teams qualify for the playoffs, how the playoffs are built. If you want to change tiebreakers, I'll let you have that too. How are you changing the playoffs and making it better?
Well, I think we're off to a good start in some of the discussions we've had at the NAI meetings. I think definitely expansion is going to be I think I don't know of anybody that is against that. I think that's the number one thing. Is that I think if you can expand to 20 teams, 20, you start with 20 and eventually go to 24, then I think some of the conferences that are pretty even and end up getting one team in, I think that would give them obviously an opportunity to have more at larges. I also think a component of that is having the conference champions be automatic, and then I think with that, then I think that's helpful for the voters too, because you mentioned teams come down to the last couple of weeks and are they in, they're not, and I think it would fall in line with with the NAI with what we're doing with all the other sports. Our basketball team or our cross country team knows that they win the conference. They know they are going to be in the playoffs. That's anybody, So I think that would help. And then I think for it to be successful though as well, I think it early on is going to have to be some regional type of things regardless, but I think it's going to give those teams an opportunity to host playoff games. I mean, you probably have the stats more than I do, but I would guess the home team in the playoffs winning percentage has to be pretty high, and you look at Dickinson State, we played our last, home playoff game in 2004. And we're going way back, but we defeated Montana Tech in the playoffs and lost to Carroll. And the year before, we played a Lambeth, Tennessee, and beat them in the playoffs and lost to Northwest Oklahoma. And that's the last time we've been at home. It was those years, and so I think expansion, not just spot from our spot, but I guess what I'm saying is for a nationwide. I think it gives more schools an opportunity to host, to have that experience, but also to get in there at an at-large.
Well, Coach, I know that we've talked about a lot of things in the years that have led up to this. Last year, we talked about the incredible support that Dickinson gives. Gives Dickinson State, and we'll get more to that in a minute. One of the, I don't know, odd from my perspective because it's a little different culturally, but a little bit of a different thing that Dickinson does that maybe not everyone knows about is the rodeo. Talk to me about that rodeo culture that exists in the Northwest.
Yeah, we've always had a really strong rodeo team, and obviously an agricultural area. We're about 30,000 in our community, but I would say on our team we probably have close to 20 agricultural majors on our team. That are farm and ranch management or whatever it is. And where some of our rodeo team and some of our players on our football team had seen it was Montana State. We have a lot of Montana guys on our team. I believe we have close to 40 on our team from Montana, and they'd seen some of the things at Montana State where they led the players out with the horses and the rodeo team, and to be able to do that, and they approached us about doing that. I said, absolutely, what a great atmosphere. And now it's what everybody looks forward to in the pregame part of it. They lead our team out. It's always kind of comical too, because I'm pretty sure that some of the guys in the opposite team, they just stop and watch, and our horses go all the way across down the field, and then they run up behind the opponent up on the hill, and they stay up there, and then they put the flag up for the national anthem, and you'll see the opponents look all the way around and turn around and just watch that. So it's a really neat thing, and our rodeo team is excited to be involved, and our crowd loves it.
Yeah, I bet. I can just imagine having, if y'all were able to convince someone from, let's say, Florida, let's say you get Southeastern coming up there and you got these guys from, to be fair, Lakeland and the city around it and the county around it that's big city as
Yeah.
compared to where I am. It's big city, obviously, compared to where you are. Get them in there. Those guys wouldn't have any idea what the heck was going on.
Yeah, it's just a really added feature to our pregame. And as you talked about, we have incredible support. We have incredible support with our touchdown club and our booster club, and our tailgating and game day is just really, really, really good. And it just says a lot about our community. They support what our guys do, but I also think our guys do a really good job of showing the community what good people they are. And I'm not talking about good players, but they're good people and good students, and they go out and do a lot of good things out in Southwest North Dakota and in the community, and the community comes out and really gets behind them. So we have a great atmosphere, a game day atmosphere that way.
That's one of the things that I realized talking to everyone else. Not everyone has that fully developed touchdown club and able to do that. And I think that, especially if we're about to talk about playoff expansion, that one of the biggest things that the NAIA, not the home office, but its member schools has to do to be successful in a world where you're going to have 20 or heck, let's be crazy, 24 teams in a playoff, and you've got that much travel. You've got to have good booster support. You've got to have a booster network that's really going in and raising money for your football team, so that if you do have to travel and you've got to foot some of that bill, that it's not going to break your budget.
No question, no question, and that's a key. And I think we're at, probably like many others. I think that they would step up more. If they had an opportunity to host a game, or like you said, if it took more travel and there was 20 teams or 24 teams or whatever it was, I think teams would really step up just with that opportunity to be in that atmosphere and have that opportunity, give those opportunities to our young men.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody who's a fan of any team whatsoever that you get a chance to host playoffs, or you get a chance to go to a close playoff game, that wouldn't immediately take that. I mean, we saw it at the national championship with Northwestern being so close that they could taste it a couple years ago, and that team coming out, and heck, they brought their band to the national championship. That was a new one on me. I hadn't seen anybody bring their marching band in a few years to that. That was neat, and having those fans there sure made a difference for Northwestern. They knew that the crowd was behind them. So that's definitely something that if I'm an NAIA coach, I'm trying to figure out how I replicate that. But as we all know, it doesn't matter what part of life that we're talking about. Professionally, your walk of faith. If you're not improving, you're falling behind. We know that life's a bit of a treadmill in that way. So, what area of your program, whether it be on the field or whether it be off the field in your program in general, where do you want to improve Dickinson State the most in 2023?
Well, I think, off the field, I think our biggest thing that we're always striving for is scholarships. And I'm sure some of the guys that you've talked to have said the same thing. We're public school, and public schools in different states are a little bit different, but we definitely don't receive as much of the funding, from that towards athletics. So we have to raise a lot of dollars to get there, and I would say we're definitely behind in that part of it, and that's not any, that and that's fine. That's just the way it is, and we're gonna do what we can do to get better. But I would say if we could keep improving on that, that would be an area that we're just we have, and we're just continuing to, once again, going back to a touchdown club and our foundation and our president, who's an amazing president, and wants us to be successful in all sports. So I think that's a big component. Obviously on the field, we you go and play in Northwestern, and how good they were, and that really, it says, hey, here's where we need to get. Or you play a Morningside or a Grandview the year before, and improvement of speed on the perimeter and in the secondary, and you look at those teams, offensively with tremendous quarterback play, and all of those type of things, solid offensive defensive line. Those are all things we're trying to do and trying to improve on, and also making sure that it's the right fit for coming to Dickinson too, and being the right guy here too. But that, yeah, on the field, I think that the perimeter speed, and just being able to be ourselves, and that is what we're looking for on the field.
Yeah, you mentioned off the field. I mean, that's nothing new for anybody. I mean, growing up in the North Florida area, you look at Florida State, who's the newest Power Five team, as odd as that sounds, and just the struggle that FSU has had to have endowed scholarships, and I'd hate to be in college administration and have to figure out, okay, how much money do I need to meet current scholarship demand versus how much do I have to invest? And God help us if we go into a into a recession or anything,
Yeah.
where that endowment like shrinks up. Whew.
Yeah, and there's no question. At the same time, you're trying to, hey, we got to improve. We have wonderful facilities. We're really fortunate that way. But hey, you're going to buy, updated turf like we did a couple of years ago. You want to get more things for your players, and you want to do all those things. And can you look at a bubble and indoor? So you have to also keep improving on those areas at the same time. So you're right, it's that balance that you'd like to have to increase both ends of it, and see the ones that are doing that, or it would be very successful at, you look at it at every level of football. The ones that are doing it in the facilities and the ones that are doing the scholarships are the ones that are there.
I mean, Coach, if we all had North Dakota State's resources, we'd all be fine, wouldn't we?
Yeah, yeah, and they've done it the right way, and a physical brand of football. But I mean, now with the new indoor facility and playing in the dome, and yeah, just incredible support, and yeah, it's yeah, they're definitely the way the way it should be.
Absolutely. So, Coach, thanks for coming on tonight, and it's always a pleasure. And we look forward to seeing what the North Star and Dickinson have to offer. We know it's going to be fun, and we'll see what we get. See if Dickinson can go for what seems to be your 74th consecutive conference championship.
Well, yeah, we're going to just keep plugging away and trying to do our best, and every week in, week out, and try to play hard and do all those things. And that's just what we're going to try to do week in, week out, and do things right as a program, and represent our university and our alums very well. But I also want to thank you for all you guys do for NAI football. We really appreciate it, and it doesn't get said enough how much we appreciate you guys giving us this support. It means a lot to the NAI.
It's our pleasure, Coach. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the NAIF Ball podcast presented by AdCraft USA. Be sure to contact them for all your custom apparel, merch, and uniform needs. Thanks also to Leading Edge Fundraising for their support of the podcast. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to the podcast as well as to our YouTube channel. Leave us a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. As always, if you'd like to support what we do, head over to patreon.com/NAIAFBALL and become a patron. We can't do what we do without our sponsors and listeners like you.